The one with Frank Jr. is a brilliant Friends episode. This is the 5th episode of the 3rd season, directed by Steve Zuckerman. And as always, I will go through the various parts of the narrative, share some thoughts, things I liked, things I didn't like. Nothing about this I didn't like, which is generally the case with Friends. So there will be spoilers from this point on. And the main narrative, or the narrative in the title, involves Phoebe spending time with Frank Jr., who is, of course, played by Giovanni Ribisi. And it's actually been quite a while since we met Frank for the first time, and I feel like they left quite a gap. And it was something I would have expected to happen, the next episode or the episode after that, but it's been quite a while, which I guess makes sense because Phoebe needed time to sit with the information. But at the same time, I think it would have made a little bit more sense to have those episodes closer together. Nevertheless, we meet Frank Jr. properly. We learn that he's a very interesting individual. He likes to melt things, which is pretty unexpected and rather interesting. And the way his part of the narrative develops is certainly a look into the type of person he is, I think. And he doesn't come across as maybe the most likable character. This is, of course, based purely on this episode, not thinking ahead to any of the future episodes. And I think it's unclear at this stage what their plans are for this character. Whether they knew or not, I don't know. But I think at this point, it could have gone either way. It could be somebody Phoebe decides that actually, yeah, I love having a brother, let's see him all the time. But at the same time, if she decided to not see him quite as frequently, based on his personality here, I think it would have made some sense. But it's nice to meet him properly. It's definitely a good part of the narrative. We then have Joey building the entertainment unit, which obviously becomes very iconic in Friends. And just Chandler's reaction to everything was fantastic. Sawing the dough in half, Joey nearly sawing or power drilling a hole in Chandler's head. Obviously wouldn't have been funny if it happened, but I think it's definitely a very entertaining part of the episode and very light as well. It's not too serious. And then we don't get much of a story with Monica. Monica's still very bitter about not having a boyfriend. She doesn't really want to play the 5 celebrities game. But Ross is very eager to spend a lot of time compiling the best list of the 5 celebrities he's allowed to sleep with. And I think thanks to this episode, everybody who's ever seen Friends on this episode has created their own list of 5 celebrities. And Ross's list, the great thing about watching Friends over and over again is that when I first saw this episode in, 2002, 3, 4, I don't think I'd heard of any of the people on the list. Whereas obviously over the years I learned more about them, and now that's not so much the case, thankfully. But that's one of my favourite things about watching Friends, is that the more you watch it, the more you get, the more references you get. And certainly when you watch it as a young child, there's a lot that went over my head, such as, and this is not the first time I've seen this episode as an adult, but the first time I realised when the masseuse says that Frank touched her. Now I'm going to have to spell it because I don't know if YouTube will demonetize me for saying this, but Fanny. I never realised as a child that she was talking about her butt, that's the American word for a butt. In the UK, it means something very different. And only now did I realise that that's what she's talking about. So it's brilliant. I love watching Friends, over and over again, because it always seems to have, I pick up on different things, or it means something different, or I realise things that went over my head as a child. Yeah, so that was definitely, unfortunately, it did mean that the joke wasn't as funny, because she says, he touched my Fanny, and then Frank says, she touched mine first, which when I was younger I thought was hilarious because he doesn't have one. Or, well, I didn't think he had one. But now that I know she was referring to her butt, not quite as funny, unfortunately. Nevertheless, I've lost my train of thought now. But yes, the point is, this list of 5 celebrities, we also, of course, get Isabella Rossellini playing herself, which is a tremendous coincidence within the episode. But, yeah, for me now, that's pretty awesome. When I was younger, it wouldn't have meant anything. So it's always fun to watch Friends over and over again, because just everything hits differently the more you watch it. I don't think this is one of my favourite episodes of all time. But at the same time, not only is there nothing wrong with it, but there are a lot of really great things about it. Definitely very funny, very entertaining, generally quite a light-hearted episode as well, which is, I think quite timely as we've had quite a few relatively heavy episodes, not quite back to back, but there have been some that have been a lot more emotional or have dug a little bit deeper. This one's a little bit lighter, but ultimately very entertaining, and I'm pretty sure it's an episode I will always enjoy.